What's up, guys? Just here on my usual walk spot on my lunch break. I figured I would turn on the camera here and shoot a video. I'm not really sure what I want to talk about today or where the video is going to go. There's a few things that I had on my mind actually about addiction, and it has to do with guilt and pain. From my perspective anyways, the addiction is any addiction really. It doesn't matter what substance you choose. I wholeheartedly believe that addiction is addiction, whether that's something you do, something you consume, something you think about all the time. An addiction is something that ultimately consumes you. So that could literally be anything you can think of, depending on your situation and your journey. But yeah, for me, my addictions were something used to alleviate my pain. And in this case, my pain is like an emotional pain of sorts. So it could, be loneliness, it could be boredom, it could be grief, it could be guilt, anything along those lines, like overthinking anything. So for me, when I consume things, it gets rid of boredom, it gets rid of guilt, it gets rid of just the loop that that's stuck in my head, whatever that is. It kind of changes all the time, but something that's kind of overarching is this like great sense of guilt. Like most addictions, when you first start them, they're not addictions, they're just things you enjoy for some reason. Perhaps they're nourishing some sort of pain inside of you that you don't really know what it is or what the substance or action is doing to you. You just know that you feel better after doing it. But the part I'm trying to talk about is how, when you actually start consume something or do something over time, it starts causing you this guilt to like fester and build up inside of you. So, say you're drinking every day, or not even every day, but however you're drinking, each time you drink, it kind of adds to like your guilt pool, which I consider guilt a source of pain, 100%. An emotional pain, at least. It's something that weighs you down, something that causes you to judge yourself, to not believe in yourself. So in my experience, like when I'm consuming something, either cannabis, alcohol, video games, things like that, it's rare that I'm actually doing it for the enjoyment of the thing that I'm doing. It's more often than not doing it to alleviate something that has built up from it in general. So in my case, drinking. So basically I have like a sense of guilt every time I drink, every time I have drank, and this guilt slowly is accumulating, sort of like fat gain. Like, if you have 2 pounds of extra fat, that's not a big deal, but if you have 100, it's a huge deal. So multiple weeks, months, years going on of this guilt building, you have this huge pain just sitting in your gut. And that pain, the bigger it grows, the more your brain wants to actually alleviate it. So, if you have this huge pain in you, you're just gonna want to drink again so you can subdue that pain at the end of the night. It's hard to sit through that. Like, that's one of the hardest things to do, is sit through pain. Unfortunately, to get out of something like this, you really have to learn how to be comfortable with pain. You have to learn to be comfortable with guilt. You have to start doing things that reduce your guilt. So each day you don't indulge in your addictive behaviors, your guilt will reduce a little bit. But that doesn't mean if you just quit one day you're free, because what about all those extra months or years of guilt that's been built up inside of you? that's something that you really have to have your mind on. Understand when those feelings arise. It's something you can tell yourself that you built this guilt up inside of yourself, and you can't expect it to just go away overnight. You have to actively work towards it. You have to purposely do things that reduce your guilt. So these are different for everybody, but there's a lot of common ones that I'm sure suit everybody as well. So, not indulging in your addictive behaviors, forcing yourself to eat well, exercise, sleep well, all the things that make a good life that seem boring when you're constantly overstimulated and filled with guilt. All those things seem boring and pointless. But the thing is, you don't really see a point in something until you're deep in it. So you could say, ice skating is pointless for me. Well, it's not pointless for the Olympian ice skater. They train it every day. They see all the little nuances. They see how they can improve. They can see the social networks they build. There really is a point to everything if you think about it. You just can't see that when you're on the other side of it. So, all that being said, it does take a lot of faith to jump into something that seems pointless, something that you don't perceive will be helpful. You kind of just have to experiment with those things. You kind of have to keep trying new things. Your brain knows what's good and what's bad. Realistically, you just have to try and choose the thing that your brain knows is good, even if it's more difficult, more often than you choose the things that your brain knows is bad, or more often pleasurable and easy. I don't really know where else I'm going with this. I just, wanted to shoot a video and talk about what's on my mind here while I'm walking. As you can see, the spring is coming, so plants are starting to bloom. I think it's a better time than any to bloom like the flower within your soul. Nourish it, food, water, rest, movement. These are all important things. And you eventually want to just bring down those feelings of guilt, because I think guilt is a very difficult feeling to describe, and a very difficult feeling to attack in a sense, because you can't. All you can do with guilt is let it pass by not indulging in things that cause you guilt. And for me, guilt is one of the most uncomfortable emotional feelings. And it's something I noticed the last few days when it gets near the end of the night. And I always tell myself, well, this is when I usually start drinking or smoking or playing games or whatever. It's because I'm feeling the most guilt at that time. I don't have any other activities that go on around 6 p.m. I'm kind of just sitting around like, what am I doing with myself? Might as well indulge in the things I like. And then you get guilty all over again. You wake up the next day, guilty from last night. You can make it 8-10 hours through the day, fighting off that guilt. But once your willpower kind of goes down towards the end of the day, you're more tired. You're, not feeling as good because, you've lived through the whole day already. Your guilt's sky high again, and it's up to you whether you want to, bear the storm or, just go buy a 6-pack and consume it and pretend like the storm's not there. Thing is, the storm's always there and you can't really hide from it forever. So it's important that you start reducing the intensity of the storm as much as you can by doing the things that you should be doing. Even if you're not perfect, progress is a lot better than expecting perfection and doing nothing about it. That's kind of my spiel here on guilt and pain and how it kind of drives addiction. I'd recommend you look kind of inside yourself and see what is causing you guilt and pain, because it's very likely that I'm not the only one suffering from this in the world. And hopefully this kind of mindset, or we're trying to think of the word here, but kind of looking inside yourself and seeing what you're actually saying to yourself is very important. So hopefully it can help some of you guys, and I'll catch you next time. Take care.